What if I told you that one of the most loved men in Hollywood is not loved because he tried to be perfect? Not because he has the loudest interviews. Not because he posts every private moment online. Not because he tells the world how generous he is. But because after losing almost everything that could have made a person bitter, Keanu Reeves somehow became softer. That is the part people cannot stop talking about. Because when most celebrities become famous, they become bigger. They become louder. They become protected by walls, assistance, luxury, security, and distance. But Keanu Reeves became something else. He became quieter. He became simpler. He became almost impossible to dislike. You see him sitting alone on a park bench, eating a sandwich like any ordinary man. You see him giving up his seat on a train. You see him taking photos with fans without touching them in a way that feels careful and respectful. You hear stories of him helping crew members, sharing money, remembering people's names, and treating fame like it is not the center of the universe. And the strange thing is this: for years people thought this was just humility, but when you look at his life closely, you begin to realize it is deeper than humility. It is survival. Keanu Reeves did not become gentle because life was easy. He became gentle because life was brutal. And somehow, he refused to let pain turn him into a cruel person. That is why his story feels different. Because this is not just the story of an actor. This is the story of a man who lost family, love, certainty, privacy, and normality, and still walked through the world as if kindness was the only thing worth carrying. But before Keanu Reeves became the man the internet calls the nicest actor in Hollywood, he was just a child moving from place to place, trying to understand where home was. He was born in Beirut, Lebanon, in 1964. That sounds surprising to some people, because most people connect him with Canada, with Hollywood, with action films, with motorcycles, with The Matrix, with John Wick. But his life began far away from all of that. His mother was a costume designer and performer. His father was not a stable presence in his life. And very early on, Keanu learned something that children should not have to learn. People can leave. Homes can change. Life does not always explain itself. When he was still young, his parents separated. His father drifted away. His mother moved with him and his sister through different cities and different countries before settling in Toronto. And Toronto became the place where Keanu grew up. But even there, life did not feel simple. He struggled in school. He dealt with dyslexia. He changed schools several times. He was not the perfect student, not the polished child star, not the kind of young person whose future looked carefully planned. In fact, one of the most interesting things about Keanu Reeves is that his success did not come from looking like he had everything figured out. It came from the opposite. He always seemed like someone searching for identity, searching for purpose, searching for a way to belong without pretending to be someone else. As a teenager, he loved hockey. He was good enough that people called him the Wall because he was strong as a goalie. For a while, maybe that could have been his path. Not Hollywood, not fame, not red carpets. Just ice, discipline, speed, and the lonely focus of a goalie standing between the world and the net. But acting pulled him in another direction. And once he stepped into performance, something clicked. Not because he was the loudest actor in the room. Not because he was trained to be perfect, but because there was something watchable about him. A strange mix of innocence and sadness. A stillness. A sincerity. A face that looked young, but eyes that already seemed to understand loss. In the beginning, he took small roles. Television work. Stage work. Commercials. The usual path of someone trying to break through. Then came films that slowly pushed him into view. River's Edge showed a darker side of teen life and gave him early credibility. Dangerous Liaisons placed him inside a more prestigious world. Parenthood showed his charm. And then came Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Suddenly, Keanu Reeves was not just another young actor. He was Ted. Sweet, spaced out, funny, wide-eyed, and completely unforgettable. For many actors, a role like that can become a trap. The audience laughs, the industry labels you, and suddenly everyone thinks they know exactly what you are. The handsome guy, the dumb guy, the surfer guy, the one who says the funny line. And for a while, Hollywood did not know what to do with Keanu. Some critics mocked him. Some people underestimated him. Some treated him like a pretty face who got lucky. But that is one of the first major lessons in his story. Keanu Reeves has spent his whole career being underestimated right before he changes the game. People thought he was just a comedy actor. Then he did Point Break. People thought he could not carry serious action. Then he did Speed. People thought he was finished when certain films failed. Then he did The Matrix. People thought his biggest days were behind him. Then he became John Wick. Again and again, the industry tried to decide who he was. And again, he refused to stay inside the box. Point Break was one of the first times audiences saw him become something more complicated. As Johnny Utah, he played an undercover FBI agent drawn into the world of surfers, criminals, freedom, danger, and loyalty. The film could have been just an action movie. But Keanu brought something unusual to it. He did not play Johnny like a typical tough guy. He played him like someone being changed by the people he was supposed to catch. That emotional conflict made the movie last. Then came Speed. A bus. A bomb. A city moving too fast. A hero who had no time to think. Speed turned Keanu Reeves into a major action star. The film worked because it was simple, tense, and perfectly built. But it also worked because Keanu had the right energy. He was not arrogant. He was not overplaying the hero. He looked focused, vulnerable, and determined. He felt like a man trying to save people, not a star trying to look cool. And that difference mattered. By the mid-90s, Keanu Reeves had something most actors dream of: fame, money, a future. A face people recognized everywhere. But if you think success protected him from pain, that is where the story becomes darker. Because around the same time the world was discovering Keanu Reeves was discovering that fame does not stop tragedy. One of his closest friends was River Phoenix. River was not just another actor. He was one of the most gifted young performers of his generation. Sensitive, brilliant, charismatic, and like Keanu. He carried a kind of emotional depth that felt bigger than the roles he played. They worked together on My Own Private Idaho, a film that became a landmark of independent cinema. Their friendship mattered. It was real. It existed away from the machinery of Hollywood promotion. But in 1993, River Phoenix died at the age of 23. The loss hit Keanu deeply. He has rarely spoken about it in a dramatic way, because that is not his style. Keanu does not turn grief into performance. But those who watched him over the years could sense it. A silence around certain memories, a carefulness, a refusal to exploit pain for attention. River's death was not the last loss. It was part of a pattern that would follow Keanu for years. And this is what makes his story so heavy. Every time life seemed to open a door, grief seemed to be waiting on the other side. In the late 90s, Keanu met Jennifer Syme. Their relationship was private, but it became one of the most heartbreaking chapters of his life. They were expecting a daughter. Her name was Ava, but the baby was stillborn. That kind of loss is almost impossible to describe. It is not only death, it is the death of a future. The room that was prepared, the name that was chosen, the life that was imagined, the birthdays that never happen, the first words never spoken, the small hand never held in the way a parent dreams of holding it. Keanu and Jennifer were devastated. Their relationship suffered under the weight of that grief. Then, in 2001, Jennifer Syme died in a car accident. In a short period of time, Keanu lost his child, and then the woman connected to that child. There are losses people recover from. And then there are losses people simply learn to carry. This was the second kind. And when people ask why Keanu Reeves seems so different from other celebrities, maybe this is part of the answer. He has lived with the kind of grief that removes any illusion that fame matters most. Awards do not fix that. Money does not fix that. A mansion does not fix that. Being recognized by strangers does not fix that. When life takes from you at that level, you either become hard or you become awake. Keanu became awake. He understood the fragility of everything. The body, the family, the career, the moment, the person sitting beside you today who may not be there tomorrow. And maybe that is why he treats people with such care. Because he knows how quickly people disappear. At the same time, another part of his private life was marked by pain. His sister Kim battled leukemia. Keanu was deeply close to her. He helped care for her. He reportedly supported her through treatment and stood beside her in ways that showed what family meant to him. This is important because it reveals something about his character that fame alone cannot show. Anyone can appear kind in public for 10 seconds. Anyone can smile for a camera. Anyone can perform generosity when people are watching. But care is different. Care is long. Care is tiring. Care happens when nobody is applauding. Care is hospital rooms, phone calls, waiting, fear, and showing up again and again. Keanu's devotion to his sister became part of the reason many people saw him as more than a celebrity. He was not just the actor who played heroes. He was a man trying to be one in real life, quietly, without needing credit. And then, in 1999, between all this personal darkness, The Matrix arrived. The Matrix was not just another movie. It was a cultural explosion. It changed action cinema. It changed visual effects. It changed the way people talked about reality, control, identity, technology, freedom, and choice. And at the center of it was Keanu Reeves as Neo. Neo is a perfect role for Keanu, because Neo is not a traditional hero at the beginning. He is confused, restless, awake, but not fully awake. He senses that something is wrong with the world, but he cannot explain it. That feeling connected with millions of people. Because who has not felt, at some point, that the life in front of them is not the whole truth? The genius of Keanu's performance is that he did not play Neo as someone who already knew he was special. He played him as someone slowly realizing responsibility. He was quiet enough for the audience to project themselves onto him. He was vulnerable enough to make the journey believable. And when he finally became the one, it did not feel like arrogance. It felt like acceptance. The Matrix turned him into a global icon. Black coat, sunglasses, bullet time, red pill, blue pill. Those images became part of modern culture. But behind the scenes, one of the most famous stories about Keanu is that he shared profits and resources with people who worked on the film. Over the years, stories have circulated about his generosity toward stunt teams, visual effects teams, and crew members. Some details have been exaggerated online because the internet loves turning kindness into legend. But the larger truth remained clear. People who worked with him often described him as respectful, generous, and grounded. And in Hollywood, where ego can become a second language, that reputation matters. Because crew members see the truth. They see who arrives late, who treats people badly, who only performs kindness when cameras appear, who remembers the people behind the lights. Keanu built a reputation not only with fans, but with the workers behind the scenes. That is why the affection for him feels different. It does not seem manufactured, it seems earned. But after The Matrix, his career did not simply move upward forever. This is another reason Keanu's story is powerful. He has had massive success, but he has also had failures. Some movies did not work. Some performances were attacked by critics. Some people mocked his acting style. There were years when Hollywood did not seem to know whether he was still a leading man. And this is where another part of Keanu's personality becomes important. He kept going, not loudly, not defensively, not by attacking critics. He simply continued. Constantine, A Scanner Darkly, The Lake House, Street Kings, The Day the Earth Stood Still, 47 Ronin. Some loved these projects, some did not. But Keanu never seemed obsessed with protecting a perfect image. He tried things, he took risks, he made unusual choices. He worked in mainstream films and smaller films. He followed curiosity. And that makes his career more interesting than a simple list of hits. Because a life without failure is not a real story. A career without risk is not a real career. Keanu's failures made his comeback more meaningful, and that comeback came with a dog, a car, a dead wife, and a man who just wanted to grieve in peace. John Wick should not have become what it became. On paper, it sounded simple. A retired assassin returns after criminals take everything he has left. But the film worked because underneath the action there was grief. John Wick was not fighting because he wanted power. He was fighting because the last gift from his dead wife had been destroyed. That emotional simplicity gave the violence weight, and Keanu Reeves was perfect for it, because by the time he played John Wick, the audience already felt something about Keanu himself. They knew he had suffered, they knew he carried sadness, they knew he understood loss. So when John Wick moved through a world of assassins, neon lights, rules, revenge, and impossible survival, the pain behind his eyes felt real. The action was incredible. The training was intense. The choreography was clean, brutal, and stylish. But the reason John Wick became legendary was not only the fighting, it was the feeling. A man who has nothing left is dangerous, but a man who once loved deeply is unforgettable. John Wick resurrected Keanu's career in a way almost nobody expected. Suddenly, he was not just a beloved older star. He was cool again. Not fake cool, not desperate cool. Real cool. The kind that comes from discipline, humility, and doing the work. Videos of his training spread online. Fans saw him practicing firearms, martial arts, driving, choreography, repetition after repetition. No arrogance, no complaining, just work. And people respected that. Because effort is visible, the body tells the truth. When an actor really trains, the action feels different. When an actor respects the stunt team, the film feels different. When an actor understands that cinema is collaboration, the audience may not know every detail, but they sense the result. John Wick became more than a franchise. It became a symbol of Keanu's second life in Hollywood. The comeback no one could hate. And while that was happening, the internet discovered another version of Keanu. Not Neo, not John Wick, not Ted, just Keanu. The man sitting alone. The man being kind to strangers. The man looking slightly sad but peaceful. The man giving thoughtful answers in interviews. The man who once responded to a question about what happens after we die by saying that the people who love us will miss us. That answer spread everywhere because it was so simple, so human, so free of performance. He did not try to explain the universe. He did not try to sound clever. He just named the emotional truth. The people who love us will miss us. That is Keanu Reeves in one sentence. Gentle, aware, painfully honest. And that is why people connect with him. Not because he gives perfect speeches, but because he says things that feel lived. There is a famous idea that celebrities are loved because they seem larger than life. Keanu Reeves is loved because he seems aware that life is larger than celebrity. He rides motorcycles. He started a motorcycle company. He plays bass. He reads. He walks through the world with a kind of quiet curiosity. He does not appear obsessed with selling himself every second. And in an age where everyone is branding, posting, promoting, reacting, performing, and shouting for attention, Keanu's silence became rare. That silence became part of his power. People trust what does not feel forced. They trust the person who does not need to constantly tell you how good they are. They trust the actor who lets other people tell the stories. And that is exactly what happened with Keanu. The stories came from fans, from crew members, from co-stars, from random people who met him, a fan whose sign he noticed, a stranger whose day he made, a crew member who received support, a person who expected celebrity arrogance and found patience instead. Now, of course, nobody is perfect. Keanu Reeves is a human being, not a saint. The internet sometimes turns real people into symbols so clean that no actual person could live up to them. That can be dangerous. Because when we make someone perfect, we stop seeing them as human. And Keanu's story matters precisely because he is human. He has suffered, he has struggled, he has made films that failed. He has lived privately through things most people would not survive emotionally without scars. The point is not that he is flawless. The point is that he seems to understand pain without becoming proud of it. He does not wear suffering like a costume. He does not use tragedy as a brand. He simply keeps moving, and sometimes that is the most heroic thing a person can do. Not winning every battle. Not saving the world. Not standing in slow motion while bullets freeze around you. Just waking up after loss and choosing not to become cruel. That is the real Keanu Reeves story. The world knows him as an action hero. But his true power may be restraint. He could demand attention, but he avoids it. He could act superior, but he seems uncomfortable with praise. He could live like fame makes him untouchable, but he moves through public life like someone who still remembers being ordinary. And maybe that is why people protect him emotionally. They see in him a kind of goodness they are afraid the world will destroy. There is something almost unusual about the way people talk about Keanu. They do not just say he is talented. They say he must be protected. They say he deserves peace. They say he has been through enough. That kind of public affection is rare. Most celebrities inspire envy. Keanu inspires tenderness. And tenderness is a powerful thing, because when audiences feel tenderness toward a public figure, they do not just consume their work. They root for their life. They want them to be happy. They want them to be safe. They want the quiet man on the bench to finally have a peaceful afternoon. That is why every Keanu moment goes viral. Not because the moment is always dramatic. Sometimes it is just him being normal. And normality, when attached to someone that famous, becomes shocking. Think about that. A celebrity behaves politely, and the internet is amazed. A celebrity listens, and the internet is moved. A celebrity does not act entitled, and people treat it like breaking news. What does that say about fame? What does it say about us? Maybe Keanu Reeves became a mirror. He shows people what they wish fame looked like. Less ego, more grace, less noise, more presence, less performance, more humanity. And that is why his story keeps growing. Because every generation finds a different Keanu. Some found him as Ted, the lovable dreamer. Some found him as Johnny Utah, chasing waves and criminals. Some found him as Jack Traven, trying to stop a bus from exploding. Some found him as Neo, waking up from the illusion. Some found him as Constantine, walking between heaven and hell. Some found him as John Wick, turning grief into unstoppable motion. And some found him not through a film at all, but through a clip online where he simply seemed kind. That is the rare thing about his career. He has lived many lives in public. Comedy icon, action star, science fiction legend, cult favorite, internet beloved figure, comeback king. But the thread through all of it is the same, a man who never seems fully consumed by the machine around him. Hollywood can make people artificial. It can polish them until nothing real remains. It can reward ego, punish vulnerability, and turn every emotion into marketing. But Keanu Reeves somehow moved through that machine and kept a piece of himself untouched. Maybe not undamaged, but untouched. There is a difference. Damaged means life left marks. Untouched means those marks did not take your soul. And that may be the reason audiences respond to him so deeply. Because everyone is damaged in some way. Everyone loses something. Everyone has private grief. Everyone has a version of themselves they had to bury. Everyone knows what it means to keep moving when something inside you has changed forever. Keanu Reeves simply became a famous example of a quiet truth. You can suffer and still be kind. You can lose and still give. You can be misunderstood and still continue. You can be famous and still remain human. And maybe that is why his life feels almost like one of his movies. A boy without a stable home grows into a man searching for meaning. A young actor is underestimated, then becomes a star. A star faces tragedy, disappears into grief, and returns changed. The world mocks him, then celebrates him. He falls, rises, falls again, and rises again. He plays a man who wakes up from a false reality. Then he becomes a man who seems more real than the reality around him. He plays a grieving assassin. Then the world understands that grief has always been part of his silence. He becomes an icon not by chasing love, but by refusing to become fake. That is a story people will always watch. Because it is not really about Hollywood. It is about endurance. And endurance is one of the oldest human stories. We love people who keep going, not because they are invincible, but because they are not. Keanu Reeves does not feel invincible. He feels breakable, and yet he continues. That is what makes him powerful, not the guns in John Wick, not the black coat in The Matrix, not the fame, not the money, The fact that after everything, he still shows up with softness. There is a lesson in that, a quiet one. The world will hurt you. People will leave. Plans will collapse. Love may not stay as long as you hoped. Success may not protect you. Fame may not comfort you. And grief may walk beside you longer than anyone can see. But you still get to choose what kind of person pain turns you into. That choice is not easy. It is made every day, in small ways. How you treat a stranger. How you speak to someone who cannot help your career. How you behave when nobody important is watching. How much bitterness you allow to live inside you. Keanu Reeves became beloved because people believe he made that choice well. Not perfectly, but sincerely. And sincerity is rare enough now that when people see it, they hold on to it. So the next time you see Keanu Reeves in a film, maybe watch differently. Do not just watch the action. Do not just watch the famous scenes. Watch the stillness. Watch the sadness under the calm. Watch the way he listens. Watch how often his characters are men caught between worlds. Ted between youth and adulthood. Johnny Utah between law and freedom. Neo between illusion and truth. Constantine between heaven and hell. John Wick between love and death. Maybe Keanu has spent his whole career playing people who are searching for a way through. And maybe that is why we believe him. Because he knows something about moving through loss, through criticism, through fame, through loneliness, through reinvention, through pain, and still, somehow, through kindness. That is why Keanu Reeves is not just a movie star. He is a feeling, the feeling that goodness can survive, the feeling that quiet strength is real, the feeling that a person can be hurt without becoming hateful, the feeling that maybe, even in an industry built on image, something honest can still exist. And in a world where people are tired of fake perfection, that honesty becomes magnetic. People do not love Keanu Reeves because he tells them to. They love him because every story about him seems to point in the same direction. A man who has every reason to be distant, but remains gentle. A man who has every reason to be cynical, but remains open. A man who has every reason to act like a legend, but keeps acting like a person. That may be the rarest performance of his life. Not Neo, not John Wick, not any character written on a page. The rarest performance is that he never seems to be performing when he is simply being himself. And maybe that is the secret. Maybe the reason Keanu Reeves became the internet's most beloved star is not because he is mysterious. It is because in a world full of noise, he feels clear. In a world full of ego, he feels humble. In a world full of people trying to appear deep, he seems quietly wounded in a way that needs no explanation. And in a world that often rewards cruelty, he made kindness look strong. So yes, Keanu Reeves is a Hollywood icon. Yes, he helped change action cinema. Yes, he starred in some of the most recognizable films of the last 40 years. Yes, he built a career most actors could only dream of. But the real reason people keep watching him is simpler than that. They see a man who went through darkness and did not become darkness. They see someone who lost pieces of his heart and still offers kindness to the world. They see a star who never forgot that every person around him is also carrying something. And that is why his legacy is bigger than box office numbers. Because movies end. Franchises end. Trends end. But the way a person makes people feel can last much longer. Keanu Reeves made people feel that humility still matters, that grief can be survived, that silence can be powerful, that kindness is not weakness, and that even after the worst chapters of life, a person can still walk forward with grace. Maybe that is why people call him breathtaking. Not because of fame, not because of beauty, not because of action scenes, but because after everything life took from him, he still gives something back. And that is the part no camera can fake. That is the part no studio can manufacture. That is the part that made Keanu Reeves more than a celebrity. It made him a reminder. A reminder that you do not need to become loud to be strong. You do not need to become cold to survive. You do not need to explain every scar for your story to matter. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is keep your heart alive in a world that keeps trying to harden it. And Keanu Reeves, quietly, painfully, beautifully, did exactly that.